Good evening, and thank you for joining us at the Steele Creek Democrats District 3 Candidates Forum for this year's City Council elections. We've organized this and invited all of the candidates, all RSVP'd, and we are glad to have them as we explore issues that impact Steele Creek. Early voting has already begun. It began on August 19th at the Hal Marshall Center, which is at 618 North College Street, and on September 2nd, it will expand to other early voting locations. The two closest to Steele Creek are the Masonic Lodge at 13611 Steele Creek Road and West Boulevard Library at 2157 West Boulevard. There are 4 Democratic candidates in this year's elections. They are Councilwoman Tijuana Brown, the incumbent, Joy Mayo, Mr. Warren Turner, former council member, and Montravius King, who has suspended his campaign but sends his regards and has a message. I will read the biographies, read a couple statements from Mr. King and from Councilwoman Brown, who had a conflict, and then lay out the rules, and then we will go into the questions of the forum. Councilwoman Brown is a proud lifelong resident of Charlotte and District 3. She was elected to the City Council in 2023. Known as the People's Champ, she advocates for fair wages, inclusive growth, and stronger community investment. Her focus has been on uplifting residents' voices, ensuring equitable development, and prioritizing policies that improve quality of life across Southwest Charlotte. Joy Mayo is a nonprofit leader in Charlotte and a former Charlotte-Mecklenburg school teacher who has lived in the area since 2012. With degrees from Elon University and the College of Charleston, she now serves as Community Engagement Manager for an environmental nonprofit and founded the local nonprofit Transforming Nations Forward, a group reimagining development along the Nations Forward Arrowwood Corridor. Her priorities include equitable housing, sustainable infrastructure, and advancing civic engagement. Mr. Turner represented District 3 on the Charlotte City Council from 2003 to 2011. A graduate of Fayetteville State University, he retired as the Chief Probation Officer and remains active as a deacon in his church here in Steele Creek. On the council, he worked on crime reduction, economic development, and affordable housing projects. Mr. King recently arrived in the city, was a city council member elsewhere in North Carolina, and suspended his campaign, but he wanted to send his regards and asked us to share the following statement. Steele Creek Democrats, as a proud resident of Steele Creek, Berwick to be exact, this is where it all started for us. Thank you so much for your support of my candidacy and for your tireless work to advance the ideals of the Democratic Party. While my campaign is currently suspended, meaning we are no longer actively campaigning, my commitment to fight for safer neighborhoods, smart and sustainable growth, and economic mobility is stronger than ever. This fight is bigger than one city council election. There are many ways to serve and remain plugged in, and that's exactly what I intend to do. Charlotte's current and future success is a group project, one that requires engagement from elected officials, business leaders, community leaders, neighbors, and stakeholders from every sector. Let's keep fighting for the Charlotte we all want to see. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Montravius. Councilwoman Brown unfortunately had a conflict that arose at the last minute. She has long planned to be here, but a vote in the city council came up that she could not miss. She asked us to share the following statement. I was fully committed to attending the forum tonight. However, after reviewing my council agenda packet, I realized there are several important items that require my attention to ensure my constituents' voices are heard. Unfortunately, the meeting coincides with the city council session this evening, and I cannot be in 2 places at once. Thank you so much for the time and passion you put into organizing this forum. I truly appreciate your commitment to engaging our community and look forward to continuing to work together. Best regards, Councilwoman Tijuana Brown. So the forum rules are as follow, and they will be fairly rigidly enforced. I think it's important to remember that this is a forum, not a debate, and I hope that the candidates focus on policy, not on each other. The opening and closing statements will allow for 2 minutes from each candidate. Each candidate has 1 minute per response for the subsequent questions. They will be given warnings. A yellow flashcard means 30 seconds remain, and a red flashcard means stop immediately. Well, Mr. Turner was tied up in traffic and has just arrived. He will be taking his seat momentarily, but I will keep going by reading the question, starting with Ms. Joy Mayo, and then I will repeat it to Mr. Turner as needed. The first is opening statements from each candidate. Please introduce yourself, share why you're running for City Council, and explain why voters should choose you to represent District 3. There are 2 minutes for this opening statement.
Good evening. My name is Joy Mayo, and I am running to represent District 3 for Charlotte City Council. I'm a former CMS teacher. I taught middle school math. I'm also a neighborhood leader and the founder and board chair of Transforming Nations Forward, a community development nonprofit working to bring investment, safety, and opportunity to one of Charlotte's most overlooked areas. I've seen firsthand how policy decisions can either empower or ignore a region, and that's why I'm running to represent District 3 for Charlotte City Council. As a District 3 representative, I will bring the same intentionality and fresh energy that I bring as a board chair of Transforming Nations Forward. I am so proud of the multi-generational, multi-ethnic coalition that we have created in the area to really make sure the voices of residents are heard. I've worked tirelessly with residents throughout District 3, closely with residents of the West Boulevard Neighborhood Coalition on community benefits agreements, as well as the Steele Creek Residents Association, to really make sure that we are not only listening and hearing the concerns of residents, but we're also empowering them in order to make changes based on the concerns that they see. I believe a couple things for my platform, and so excited to share with you all. So I think our neighborhood leaders know the work that needs to be done. I am a big proponent of making sure that those neighborhood leaders are part of that conversation and help us build safe and inclusive communities. I am also working tirelessly to create permanent affordable housing through making sure we're being thoughtful of the contracts and regulations, thinking through land trust models and land banking. And lastly, as an environmentalist, I am a huge proponent of smart growth, which is essential so that people can kind of do the work, play, and live aspect that we always talk about here in Charlotte within 10 minutes so that they can receive essential services and get to their job during several medians. That can include walking, biking, taking a scooter, and of course, driving.
Yes, my name is Warren Turner, and I'm running for City Council District 3. I've lived here in the Steele Creek. I'm a native Charlottean, and I attended Sterling Elementary School in Pineville, and I went to J. Mason Smith on Tyvola Road, where I'm also a proud graduate of Olympic High School, the Trojans. And over the course of the years, I had the opportunity, when I was growing up, riding my horses over that Porter Riding Stable. And this was all country. It was what they used to call us the country kids. So it was Olympic, North Mac, West Mac, and Independence High School. And by living here, I've seen the change. Some good, some not so good. And we all know that there are things that come with growth. When I got elected in 2003 as your city council leader, I had the opportunity to address firsthand the issues that Nations Forward Road was dealing with, where I grew up at. I had the opportunity to remove trailers. I had the opportunity to remove drug dealers, and we cleaned the area up. So what you see today is from the work that I've done throughout this district, West Boulevard corridor, the Freedom Drive corridor, as well as the Steele Creek, Rivergate. What you see now is part of my development. Bearwick is part of the things that I help steer. So what I'm very concerned about today is that the crime, overdevelopment, sprawl, a lack of infrastructure to support the growth that we've seen out here in the Steele Creek area. Just like now, it took me almost 40 minutes to come approximately 3 miles. And that's too long. I thought maybe there was an accident on South Tryon, but if you live out here, you're very aware of what goes on. And by being a neighborhood leader and also being your council representative for 8 years, I know what it takes and what we need to do to get the job done. Thank you.
And we will certainly get into infrastructure and crime and plans for the future of Steele Creek in the forum. But first, let's start with an easier one that may help us get to know the candidates. I'll start with Joy Mayo again. What personal values and experiences influence your leadership style in decision making?
I think listening is the biggest, the key thing that I really value. I think it's so important to make sure that we're listening to people and also giving them an opportunity to be the change that they want to see. I think oftentimes, particularly in underserved communities, when we're thinking of Nations Ford and also West Boulevard, and even parts of Steele Creek. Steele Creek is very diverse. Often people were overlooked. So we need a city council rep who's not only going to listen, but also put action to policy. So I'm very committed to creating policies that the residents need in order to be successful. So that includes infrastructure. When we're talking about the 10-minute cities and smart growth, I believe that we need to continue to grow near existing transit options, particularly multimodal transit options, so that people can get around. We know urban sprawl here in Steele Creek is not pleasant, and just making sure that we're creating a city where people can actively get where they need to be is so essential, and that infrastructure is the key.
And Mr. Turner, what personal values and experiences influence your leadership style and your decision-making process?
Thank you. Well, I give that credit to my parents. My dad, who was a deacon in my church, where I'm also a deacon and serve, a Christian. I believe in honesty and integrity. My parents raised me that way. My dad was military. So when I look back and I think about after doing 30 years in the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, I'm a public servant. I've been pretty much a public servant all my life. I was a scoutmaster, founder of Troop 28 at Silver Mountain Baptist Church. I enjoy working with senior citizens. I enjoy making a difference in their lives and our young people. I also taught school at Olympic High School, also where I coached football. And now I get an opportunity to share those values with young people and steer them in the right direction. But more importantly, being a great listener, I think you have to be able to listen, and you also have to be able to collaborate with people.
Thank you. The questions are grouped roughly by topic, but so some of them may rhyme or seem to be on the same topic as we go through them. The first is about this infrastructure, the city growth and development. Charlotte is among the fastest growing cities in America and in the Southeast. Steele Creek has transformed rapidly from farmland to one of some of the fastest growing neighborhoods in the county. This growth has brought vibrant diversity and prosperity, but there are concerns about the loss of tree canopy, congestion, and loss of historical character. For example, in just this June, a permit was issued to allow demolition of the 200-year-old William Greer House off Shopton Road. What is your vision for balancing new development while protecting Steele Creek's heritage? And we'll start with Joy again.
Thank you. So actually, as a history major, both of my master's and my bachelor's are both in history. So this question is near and dear to my heart. I do think it's important that we preserve the history of the area. We have a preservation committee here in the city of Charlotte. I think working closely with them is imperative to make sure that they are helping us preserve the landmarks that we hold dear and also the character of Charlotte. Also, when it comes to infrastructure and things, I do notice oftentimes with Steele Creek, people are leaving Steele Creek to go uptown or other areas for their jobs. And I think it's important that we are creating infrastructure and jobs within the area so people are not always having to leave Steele Creek. But also with, the potential transit bill, tax that will provide additional investment to transit that could help residents of Steele Creek. So I think that residents have a lot to think about how we are growing the city, and they will have that opportunity in November to vote for the transit bill.
And Mr. Turner?
Yeah, absolutely. Being a Steele Creeker, I grew up out here, so I've witnessed it firsthand, been a part of it, also helped divisions. But I will tell you that, I miss the relationship, with the late, great Sarah Belt Gambriel, who owned a lot of land out here, as well as Al Wingett, the Boyd family. You had a chance. I've seen what has happened. And the greatest concern that I have is that we are losing our tree canopy. in Charlotte. We used to be known for that, a very clean, beautiful city and safe. But we are moving with sprawl without the infrastructure. These things affect our health, it has an asthma effect on people, but more importantly, it gives us a space to play, to live, and to work and enjoy. Now, when I was on city council, I defined this as the new West Side, and I warned them and told them we had the greatest treasure. We had the water, and we were the last frontier, which means that we had the last greatest acreage left in the city of Charlotte. And we have seen that tremendously impact by the growth and sprawl.
Well, it's interesting to hear those substantive plans for how to improve the infrastructure in the area, and then also hear a background on some of the names like Belk and Wingate. My daughter's just about to go to Wingate Elementary School, but I did not know the individual that, or at least the family that it's named after. I'm one of the new arrivals to Steele Creek. And one of the reasons that my wife and my family decided to settle here is because of the wonderful housing you can get. I mean, I say for my part that you can get some of the better housing here than you can get anywhere else in Charlotte. But not all Charlotteans and not all residents of District 3 are receiving that benefit. And so my next question is, and I'll continue in the same order, first Ms. Mayo and then Mr. Turner, is what policies would you support to improve affordable housing opportunities in the city? Some examples are eliminating single-family zoning, leveraging private capital with public-private partnerships, loosening restrictions on rental properties, control of corporate landlords, or reforming zoning requirements. What approaches would you take to ensure that every Charlottean and District 3 resident has a safe, affordable home to live in?
Thank you. So this is actually something that's near and dear to my heart, being thoughtful of preserving our neighborhoods. So for 9 years, I served as the HOA president for my neighborhood, Kings Creek. And for 8 years, we were able to create a pathway to affordable homeownership by enforcing our CCRs and bylaws for our homeowners association. So we had a 20% rental cap. We enforced that for the last 8 years. We have kept corporate landlords out of our neighborhood. We have created a pathway to affordable homeownership so that the average Charlottean can actually afford a house. So people were able to purchase homes for under $250,000 in my neighborhood, and we are less than a 10-minute easy walk to the light rail, right up the street from the bus station as well. So I think, one, strengthening our local HOAs and neighborhoods so that they can help us create a pathway to affordable homeownership, because I think, we have to be thoughtful of what we can do.
I'm glad that Ms. Mayo mentioned those things. I'm glad she enjoyed the light rail that's there. I oversee the first 9.2 miles of the light rail as the Vice Chair of Transportation. Well, I want to talk about the other aspects that when we start talking about how we make affordable, I still believe in the city of Charlotte we have yet to come up with a true definition of affordable. So, first of all, we have programs that I used, including the neighborhood that she lives in. I was part of that and drove the affordable housing at Kings Creek on Arrowwood Road. So I used TIF, and it's TIF, tax increment financing. And we have to come up with those and be more proactive in doing that, as well as a public-private partnership with our developers, as well as looking into means of how we can come up with our own Homestead Act. I know the county has that through the state of North Carolina, but I think we can do a little better, especially protecting the quality of life for our seniors and our young people that have born or raised here that like to come back when they leave college, to come back to their own home. They can't afford to live in the city that they were born in.
Thank you both. Joy said that question was near and dear to her heart, and now we have one that's near and dear to mine on the issue of the unhoused and homelessness in Mecklenburg County. The June 6, 2025 point-in-time count in Charlotte counted a 16% increase year over year in the amount of the unsheltered in the county. This is the highest since 2010. We see this in our streets, and we see this in panhandling at intersections. Do you have any policies that would help the unhoused specifically? And also, how do you feel about the practice of panhandling? Do you think that it should be regulated? Do you think it's appropriate? Or do you think the city should take active measures to discourage it? Yes.
Oh, thank you. So CMPD has actively been working for some of these concerns you're discussing, particularly unhoused community. I know with the Westinghouse division, they've been meeting with, having small groups of neighborhood leaders in order to have this discussion. And part of that is involving panhandling. So it's my understanding that CMPD has been more strict in with regulations regarding panhandling, particularly along street lights, because it can be dangerous to for the unhoused community and also the people who are driving. I do think that part of this is a lack of affordability in Charlotte. So when we're thinking about housing costs, if we're talking about wages, we know that we've had stagnant wages in Charlotte that has not kept up with the cost of living. And I think that is so imperative when we're having those conversations with businesses that are coming to Charlotte with their contracts. How are they going to include the community in some of those conversations and for those jobs? We want to make sure that there are community benefits agreements so that everyone is getting a piece of the pie.
I want to answer this question. First and foremost, I do not support panhandling, and I think we need to get a little tougher on it. And I think also we have to be very careful when we define what's homeless. You know, everybody belongs to somebody. And a lot of the issues that we see on the street after doing 30 years in public safety, I know for a fact that if you interview most of these people, and I've had the opportunity to be out there with them, I've been to their camps, we're dealing with substance abuse in many cases. And a lot of these people are not from Charlotte. They come here because they were told there was better opportunity, they can get better services here. So we have to start regulating it, and we also have to start discouraging people standing in the middle of a median on a public right-of-way. You know, it's not safe when you come up here at Trine and Rivergate and someone's standing in the middle of the road at night, walking up to your window when those ladies. So we have to be very, very careful about what we encourage. I think we have to get on this. It's getting out of control, and we have to come up with a better solution. And there are a lot of people. I can give you a great example. Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads do a great job at it.
Thank you both. And now on to a more serious public safety issue. Violent crime is actually down across the nation after a spike during the COVID years. And broadly speaking, if you take a broader perspective from the 80s to the 90s to today, it has dropped dramatically. But the average American doesn't seem, or at least that I'm encountering, doesn't seem to have that perception. What is your perception of the state of violent crime in Charlotte? And what do you think that would, no matter what the level is, what do you think that we should do to address it and bring it down even more?
So I understand when crime happens to you or near you, that feels very personal. So I understand that although the stats are showing that violent crime is going down in the city of Charlotte, you know, if it's happening around you, it feels personal and it feels that, you know, it's more than what you would imagine. I think CMPD is doing some great work. I think that the city and the county have both invested quite a lot with the Office of Violence Prevention, with the Alternatives to Violence program, really having conversations and working one-on-one with people who have previously you know, had issues with violent crimes and drug relation, with conflict resolution. So how, instead of reaching for guns, can they resolve conflict differently? So I think the city has done some great initiatives. I would hope to expand upon that. Would love at some point to talk a little bit more about the Green Light initiative that the city of Detroit created to help with petty crime. I do think we know that petty crime has gone up in the city of Charlotte, and I know for business owners, they're feeling the brunt of that. But I hope that we'll have time to talk a little bit more about that, because that is an initiative that I would like to spearhead. Thank you. Spearhead here in Charlotte.
Crime is a very serious matter. It is a threat to the brand of our city, your quality of life, and as your perception, a perception is a reality. If you live somewhere where it doesn't happen, then you don't see it. But just the other night, again, we had another stabbing and a murder in our city. No one should have to be exposed to that. So when you start talking about the crime is down, well, you know, what's your level of tolerance? If one is, in my opinion, is too many, and two is too many. So for me, we have to get very aggressive and tough on crime, and we have to become more proactive than reactive. It is the reality. We don't want to talk about it. We can compare. If we had 150 deaths last year and you only have 100 this year, that's a pretty good rate. But you know what? That's still too many. And we have to start asking ourselves, what are we doing? what are we doing? What are we encouraging and not encouraging? So I'm one that believe that if you don't get on these little things, when I took over this district, we had the highest crime rate in the city of Charlotte. And that's why we also had the highest unemployment rate and the highest vacancies in this city.
Yes, even one is certainly too many, and we can certainly learn from other communities because we're not alone. Many are facing these same issues. Now to move on to transportation and infrastructure that we've touched on a little bit with some of the previous questions, but here in Steele Creek, we see, light rail is bringing people into uptown. Matthews is slated to get an expansion of public transportation. In many ways, it seems that we are left out. What are your thoughts on the state of public transit specifically in Steele Creek, and what do you think we need to do to expand it if you feel that it needs to be expanded? Joy, yes.
Yeah, so I actually chair the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Climate Leaders Transportation Committee to make sure that we're being thoughtful with transit options. So I am a huge fan of multimodal transportation. I am very encouraged by some of the work that the city is doing when it comes to microtransit. I think that it provides a great opportunity for people to be able to get around for about $2.20. It's an Uber-like experience. And I think that this provides a great opportunity for people to be able to get around. We know that often some of our most vulnerable citizens do not have access to cars. And so they are relying on public transit. So I think that's a great opportunity for people potentially to, not have to have a car depending on where they live, which could be a great cost saver. So I think we're going to have to continue to do some hard work and conversations regarding transit options to ensure that everyone can get around effectively in Charlotte. But I think we're also going to have to think outside the box.
Well, as I stated earlier, I was the vice chair of transportation for the city of Charlotte. I oversee the first 9.2 miles of our light rail system today that runs down South Boulevard. Steele Creek got left out again. So, 160, Highway 160 is a serious issue. We now have more development along 160 than we ever thought we would have. And therefore, I am seriously telling people that we have to start looking at putting on a moratorium. When I was on city council, the President of the United States, Obama, had a program we call shovel-ready programs. And that means simply that everything was in place, the drawings and everything. So 160 did not make that list. Instead, that money was deferred to Pineville and Matthews. And we have yet to get pushed up on that list. We get pushed further and further away. I want to fix that problem.
Great. As a matter of convenience, I've been going first to Ms. Mayo and then to Mr. Turner, but in the interest of fairness, from here on out, we will reverse it, and then I will address Mr. Turner first, and then Ms. Mayo can follow. This is a short one. It may not take the full minute, but the 1 cent tax on the ballot for the transit system, will you be voting for it? Why or why not? Mr. Turner.
Oh, I'm going to be voting on the issue. Your question is whether I'm going to vote for, how you want to know how I'm going to vote on it. Let me say this first. I've read it, and I told you all I would, and I have studied it. I have too many great concerns. There are too many things I believe are left out that's going to benefit everybody. And I would tell you, for one, we have to be greatly cautious about a transit authority. You know how many city employees may lose their job? You lose all control as the city of Charlotte, and someone else will be telling us what we get and what we don't get. I'm very concerned about that. If we were caught up and I thought we were where we need to be, maybe it would be a little easier. But when you package what they have packaged together, it needs to be looked at, and I think we're rushing into this matter. Yes, the city of Charlotte has a transportation department, and the state has a transportation department. We need to continue down this road. We should not have to be rushed to make this decision. I think the citizens did not get enough time to understand exactly what they're going to be voting on. So my answer to that question, finally, I would tell you, you're the first person that I have given my position on that. It's an absolutely no vote for me.
Thank you. This is still a question that I am very conflicted about. I am still reviewing and thinking through it. As my position as an environmentalist, I understand the need for increased dollars toward multiple forms of transit, including light rail, and even with the roads component, that also includes street lights and also improvements to sidewalks and bike lanes. So I do understand the need for multiple different options for transit for residents. But I am still concerned, and I've continued to say that, about potential displacement, particularly along West Boulevard area. I've worked closely with neighborhood leaders like Ricky Hall about community benefits agreement. In order to support that, I think that we need to be thoughtful of creating infrastructure for workforce development. We know that, let's say this passes, there are going to be opportunities for jobs for people. We need to start training people so that they can have the jobs that are potentially coming from this.
Steele Creek is a very diverse area, and it's one of the reasons that I love this part of town, and I think that many others do too. But there's still work to do in Charlotte and in the nation, and especially in the South. What are where does advancing racial equity and inclusion rank on your list of priorities, and what will your policies be to advance that cause? Mr. Turner.
Well, that's not a simple answer, but I will tell you that it's something that we have to continue to work on. It's obviously not right. We still have not met our mark, and it's something that I think government and citizens, we have to continue to work towards. This is not new, and it's going to be ongoing. But we cannot go back. I think it's imperative that we move forward with better solutions and how to do that, instead of just thinking that you do away with it. And it has an effect. We cannot continue to do this the way we've been doing it. I believe that we have to put more money in it, and I think we also have to put more training in it for people to understand exactly what it is. I've simply heard people say the craziest thing. Somebody said it's affirmative action. Somebody calls it this. Somebody calls it that. So oftentimes what I hear from it is a lack of knowledge. People are starving because they don't know. They don't understand it, and now it's being racially profiled. And it has nothing to do with that. We have to do a better job in educating our citizens what it is.
So racial equity is very important to me. As a former CMS teacher, I taught at Southwest Middle for about 4 years before leaving the teaching profession. And that's one thing I really like about Steele Creek as well. It is very racially and socioeconomically diverse, and which is one of the reasons that kind of highlighted and made me start teaching at Southwest. One thing that I'm very excited about as soon-to-be District 3 representative is making sure that we're including multi-ethnic and multi-generational in our different commissions and boards. I think that is imperative, that we are starting to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, and this includes young people. I don't think it just it needs to be ethnic, but also young people. How are we going to help create a pipeline for young leaders? And part of that is getting them involved. So I've been on the Community Relations Committee. I used to be the chair of the Public Relations Committee, and we had a high school student who was 17 who was also on that committee, and he brought so much fresh energy and new ideas. And it is imperative that we include our young people in these conversations as well as multi-ethnics.
Well, amen to that. Amen to what you both said. A question that I think is intertwined with the one I just asked relates to income inequality. Do you believe that income inequality is something that can be addressed on the city council level? And if so, what ideas do you have to address that problem? Mr. Turner.
I think that we as a city can do better by being a better example of what we pay our employees. Just like being an ex-student teacher myself, is that, we always talk about what we pay our teachers, but they form our young people's mind. So I believe that since we are not part of the CMS system, but as a city representative, I think it starts at home first. If the city of Charlotte can be a great example how that works and how they are performing it, so as they just raised, I think $23 is the minimum you can make now for the city of Charlotte employees. That was a serious increase for some people, and some people it didn't matter. wasn't enough. But for a lot of the city workers that do our day-to-day jobs, your sanitation department, your street maintenance services, your water department, you know, that was a nice increase. So we have to be a better example.
So I think there are multiple ways to address this. Part, I also agree, is wages. So I think as, you know, a District 3 representative, thinking through the contracts that we are having with various entities, particularly those that are on city property. Are we prioritizing organizations that meet the expectations that we hold dear? So are those contractors paying a minimum of $23, if that is something that we think is priority for the city of Charlotte? Are we also prioritizing contracts with organizations that are in Mecklenburg County opposed to other states? I think we need to take care of home first and make sure we're funneling money within our community. And lastly, really highlighting minority women and small business owners. So I think there are a lot of ways that, as a former teacher, I'm a big fan of a rubric. I think those three things should be highest on the rubric and should have a higher weight. I think that we need to hold organizations and companies responsible for creating the growth that we want to see in Charlotte, and part of that includes the contracts.
You both mentioned Charlotte Public Schools in your answers, and that is a great segue to my next question. And the first question is, what role does the City Council play in supporting Charlotte's local public schools? Mr. Turner.
Well, the state controls that for a lot of it based on what taxes go. Once upon a time, we used to have the red light program. That was a great program. It was a safety for high pack and collisions, people running red lights. And that revenue that was being generated since the city of Charlotte, we were sponsoring it. And we only wanted to hold the money to pay for whatever our expenses were. But the state of North Carolina ruled that we had to release all that finances and go to the school board system. Just like in your criminal justice system, when you go and you're on probation, you pay fines and fees. Those go to, a lot of people don't know that. That goes to the public school system. I'm one that believe that we have to do a better job. We can help the schools if we do a better job when we rezone and have them more involved in our decision, because that's when they have to spend more money building schools or trying to, when we have schools that's overcrowded, because of our decision of what we do with land. And they're not involved in that process, even though we do offer them an opportunity to be so.
I think that there are multiple ways that we can help. I love the city's newest initiative, E2E, which is educate to employment. So the city is actively working with different schools, high schools, in order to recruit students so that they can start working in a lot of the different fields that the city of Charlotte has. They'll make a minimum of $23 an hour, which we just discussed. They'll receive a pension, and they'll also receive opportunities to advance with getting degrees. So I think there are a lot of great things that the city is doing. I would expand upon that. I'm also familiar with what Warren discussed with the red light issue with cameras at school zones. I think we should really think about reinstating that and using some of that income to give to our CMS partners. I think in order to have strong schools, we need to have strong communities, and making sure that our young people know how to resolve conflict with alternatives to violence. Those are some of the things that are really going to help turn the dial. So excited to continue to do this work because our young people need it.
I'm sorry, can I have the opportunity just to clear up that in regards to, I don't want it to be misconceived that we're using the red light as a profit. That's the state statute that was in place that would not allow the city of Charlotte to keep those funds. We had to turn it over to the CMS school system.
Yeah, I am aware of that. WFAE just did an article or a conversation about that. Steve Collins talked about Vision Zero, so that was one thing that they talked about. I'm an avid NPR listener, and I'm well aware of that. So thank you so much. Yes, I'm aware of the state statute, but I think that we can think collaboratively and outside of the box so that we can support our schools.
I was happy to allow that little back and forth because I will say I've moderated a few forums, and this is probably some of the best disciplined, sticking closest to the rules of any that I've had to. So thank you both for that. Happy to let you expand on that a little bit more. When I was writing these questions last night, reflecting on schools and school policy, I guess I thought a little bit about myself. And when I was in high school, I was the most idealistic, most willing to say that the emperor has no clothes. I may not have known how to implement my ideals, but I certainly held them perhaps even more truly than I did now. So that led to this next question: is how can the city help young people participate in civic life and decision making? Mr. Turner.
Well, I like to bring back some things that we had in place when I was growing up with the city of Charlotte. I had, and I've heard people advocate for it. They're no longer in that business. I think bringing back neighborhood centers where the city of Charlotte and the county are doing a partnership to have different programs to teach people civic responsibilities, as well as what they can expect from their city and their government, what their taxpayers, what the tax money go to. And I think it gave us structure, and it allows you also to be more functional in your city. We create these different entities like 311, people complain about it, but we spent a lot of money coming up with 311 before I left city council. Now I hear people complain about it. So I just think that there's other things that we can do as a partnership, and unfortunately, we oftentimes get in whose responsibility from a city-county standpoint. So I think that's one of the ways.
So this is a question that I'm very excited to talk about. I think we have to meet people where they are. I think oftentimes we expect people want to just magically know where things are. I think we have to be thoughtful of thinking about where young people were often in social media. So how are we engaging with people? How are we thinking outside the box? How are we involving young people in decision making? And part of that is asking them, how would you like to be involved? Maybe we need to have some influencers, some young people, really help them rev up some of these conversations. I've also spoken closely with the county regarding the need for recreation spaces. We've talked about Bramblewood Soccer Complex on Nations Ford becoming a regional rec center, and Arthur Griffin, our county commissioner at large, has talked about the need for investment. We know Steele Creek does not have a regional rec center. We have been advocating for a Southwest Regional Rec Center for about a year and a half, and that is imperative that we are providing places not only for our young people, but for multi-generations to get together and have conversations and build community.
Some Charlotte influencers, I like it. My 5-year-old daughter somehow has 3,500 followers on TikTok at Clementine of Carolina, if you want some baby videos that are intended for my grandparents. The next question I have, and then we'll be wrapping up in short order, is in the area of ethics. How will you ensure transparency and accountability in city government operations? Are there any specific forms that you think are needed right now to prevent conflicts of interest or the appearance of corruption? Mr. Turner.
Wow. Yeah, we have been in the city council, have been up under that spotlight for a while now this year. One of the things that I have answered in my many questionnaires is that we have to do a better job in policy and understanding the policies and what the law allows them to do and not do. When they're in closed sessions, there are certain rules to that. There are certain laws. But, when things happen behind closed doors and folk believe that they can deviate from what the policy and law allow them to do, that's an issue for me. And that questions integrity. We talk about transparency. A lot of people think that everything should be on the table, but unfortunately, there are HIPAA laws that prevent some things and that they cannot discuss openly. And I think that they need to make sure that the public understands the difference so people won't question every little thing that they do because they understand how it works. And I think a lot of it comes from a lack of transparency, but also a lack of communication.
So I think it's very important to have a scorecard. I love the Charlotte Observer article that came out today talking about the attendance of city council reps. I think it's important for us to know this information. I agree that that should be public information and highlighted somewhere. I also think holding city staff accountable. I mean, I think we're often hearing about programs, but we don't know the progress of any of those or time frames or timelines. For example, the city Stay in Place program that has not been manned for quite a while. We know that it's essential for our particular seniors to be able to stay in their home. And when we don't have actively someone who is implementing and helping with that program, how are we really helping some of our most vulnerable citizens and residents? So I think that's really imperative to have those conversations and hold city officials and staff accountable. Having that rubric or that scorecard, having clear goals. But I think oftentimes we don't know who we're supposed to talk to as citizens, and that should change.
And this next question takes that topic and takes it in a bit of a personal direction. I understand there may not be a specific example here, but I did want to ask if there are any times that you can speak to where you stood up to either waste, fraud, or abuse of government, nonprofit, or other resources that you had been entrusted with, or if there are any other personal examples you could provide of when you were a good steward of funds or resources that you had been entrusted with. Mr. Turner.
Yeah, I can. Actually, even with my job that I used to do before I retired after 30 years with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, but I want to go back and focus right now on the city of Charlotte. One of the things that I came up with was Eyes on Charlotte. That was remodeled around, and also a time where I questioned staff in regards to bills, what we were paying out in regards to our technology equipment. And unfortunately, I had to probably, that individual was later terminated and actually was convicted for those crimes that they had committed. I didn't know how deep it was, but I knew that what I saw had a red flag, and in actuality, it turned into something else. It was a little bigger. So, you know, we have to address those things. I saw a lot of waste in our city government at that time, and it wasn't always that way. It really has about leadership. I saw it under different managements.
Thank you. I think the biggest example of how I've seen that personally or been impacted to really show my integrity. So about 2 years ago, I was considering running for District 3 for Charlotte City Council, but I decided that it really wasn't the best time for me and my family. And I returned all the money that I had fundraised. I didn't have it, no one had to tell me, or there was no kind of anything. I knew that I was so grateful for my family and friends supporting me and entrusting me with their hard-earned cash. We know that it's difficult out here, and I refunded all the money because I knew that I wanted to show them, one, my gratitude, and just really proud of the integrity and the honesty that I show in all forms of my life. So I think that's a great example.
Well, thank you. Getting to the end here, I have two questions, and then I will ask for your closing statements. One, I just want to work in because I do not think that a lot of people understand that the impact that AI and technology will have on our society. And I want to ask if you had any thoughts on the fact that so many processes can be automated and how that will impact us. Some examples that I'm thinking of are license plate scanners. Would you support having license plate scanners throughout the city that could be used to track crime, but also could be used to track citizens? Another that I saw downtown recently is that there was a robot serving as security in front of the Wells Fargo building. And so because it's 21st century, I want to ask a 21st century question. How do you see technology changing both the government and the community of Charlotte in the coming years?
Well, I'm very concerned about technology in our government and in our society, period. It's kind of like everything else. This stuff has really, when it was introduced to our society, I believe that we were not ahead of it. When I say that, meaning I'm talking about policies and what the law will allow and what it shouldn't allow, how it can be used. And now it's out. And now we're trying to play catch up and create laws and governments and policies for something that's already out there. I worry about it in our public schools. I've heard some different teachers' views, but I worry about it. Our children cannot read, they can't write, and everything does it for them. And then you start talking about integrity. We're talking about a child. You know, the pressure of them getting an A or B or a C or D or F. You tell me what you think the average child would do that's young and influenced by what everybody else is doing. So I worry about it dumbing down our young people, preparing them for what our future look like. You know, who's going to be our next doctors? Computers?
Thank you. I think there are pros and cons to AI and technology. I do agree that Pandora's box has been opened, that, you know, there are concerns with that. I think really, from what I'm understanding, really grasping about AI, it's really in who is using it behind it, the user. So making sure that we have, particularly if we're using it in government, that we have regulations and stipulations for those people who are in charge of the AI or the computer to make sure that they're meeting the expectations that the Charlotte has. We know oftentimes AI can may not intentionally, but be discriminatory to Black and brown people. So I think there are a lot of things to be thoughtful of. How do we create regulations and stipulations to make sure that any entity that is using that, particularly with the city of Charlotte, in a way that is responsible and that is not harming the residents of the area?
And then my final question is designed to downshift a little bit before closing statements, and it is just the simple, what is your favorite restaurant in Charlotte, and why would you recommend it? Mr. Turner.
Wow. We go out to eat probably a little more than I like now, but there's a beautiful, there is a nice Cuban restaurant that's down in Valentine that we really, really enjoy. It's not a huge restaurant, it's just right. My wife and I, we know them personally now, so the food is excellent, and I do recommend people go there. The environment is wonderful, and we enjoy that.
Thank you. I'd actually like to talk about two, if that's okay. So, and both of mine are in District 3, so shout out. First, Hellenic, which is a Greek restaurant on South Boulevard. If you are a fan of Greek food, it is fresh. They actually have parking too, so there's like a little deck kind of over there. So if you're not taking the light rail or the bus or another form of transit, if you're driving, you can access that there. Also, Curry Gate, which is also off South Boulevard, not far from where I live. I love Indian food. That is one of my favorite places to go. I love their lamb korma is my favorite. So definitely, you know, if you're looking for two places, I think those are it for my favorite. And I think that represents the diversity of District 3 as well. Both of those are immigrant-owned, small businesses, and that's really what I'm a fan of in general, just making sure that we're supporting our small business owners, and those are two of my favorites. So I was just at Hellenic yesterday, or like last week.
And I would get in trouble if I didn't say this one, because the Caribbean Hut is located on Woodlawn, also up at University, also one in Gastonia now, and also one up in Mallet Creek. If you like Jamaican food, it's excellent, it's authentic, and I recommend anybody to go there. If you don't like it, call me back and I'll pay for it.
Oh, wow, that's an endorsement.
Well, you two have been exemplary, and I thank you both for that. We've covered a lot of ground, and thank you both for coming out. As we said, all candidates were invited. You took the time to join us here in Steele Creek Democrats, and so thank you both. Please give us a brief closing statement, and then we will wind up. We will go in reverse order to the opening statement, so we will start with Mr. Turner.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're at a very tipping point in our community as well as in our city. Having seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, it is too imperative to us to fall back. One of the things that I told you before that I advocated and stand on, when I took over this district in 2003, we had the highest unemployment rate, the highest crime rate, and no development and no economic development, no housing. And before I left the District 3 seat in 2011, we were the #1 employer in the city of Charlotte. I think we still hold to that. Our concern is that the crime is going up. I put new housing in our Charlotte. I built Rivergate. We have Berwick, all those amenities. You got West Boulevard, Freedom Drive Coalition. We did all those things that you didn't see. If you've been living in Charlotte for the last 40 years, you would know what it looked like before and what it looked like now. And the first thing we have to do, I'm telling you right now, is that we cannot continue to look the other way. With crime, we have to address our crime, and we need to get on that quickly. And we also need to address our rising costs to live in the city of Charlotte. You cannot displace our seniors, and you cannot make our city so unaffordable that the people that work here cannot live here, and also the people that was born and raised here cannot come back here after they leave wherever they've been for education-wise. So those things concern me, and I can assure you that I will fight for those things, and I also will fight for a better plan for our transportation future. And we have to do something, but I just don't believe that we should be rushed into making this decision. There are avenues that will go on. A transportation system, the things that we need, and preparing for our future. This is not our first plan. It won't be our last plan. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joy Mayo, and I am running to represent District 3 for Charlotte City Council. Thank you so much for joining us this evening to learn more about my platform and how I will bring real change as a representative for District 3. So as previously mentioned, I am a former CMS teacher. I taught middle school math and social studies, so both sides of the brain, with CMS in Southwest Middle. So I have been ingrained in this community for 9+ years, serving and educating and working with young people. Served as a neighborhood leader in the Nations Forward Arrowwood Corridor. Very proud of the work that I have done and that we have done together. We've created a multicultural, multi-generational coalition that is really bringing real change in that area. And I will continue to do that work District 3-wide, continuing to work with organizations like the West Boulevard Neighborhood Coalition and the Steele Creek Residents Association. I believe that our neighborhood leaders know the issues that are important to them and that are important to the region, and that we should be including them and empowering them to help us create the change. Safe and inclusive communities are so essential. Continuing to expand upon programs like the Alternatives to Violence, bringing intentional planning back to Charlotte. I am a huge proponent of smart growth. I think that we can develop our city in a way that people can live, work, play within 10 minutes and do all their amenities and necessary things. And that doesn't always have to be driving in a car. So I think that being thoughtful of all the different forms of transportation is important to creating a good quality of life for our residents. And lastly, I am always a fan of being thoughtful of affordability. And part of that can go with contracts for existing organizations that are in the city, but also future organizations that hope to join our city and move here. How are they benefiting the community? And I think having those tough conversations with community benefits agreements, with jobs and wages. So vote for Joy. Choose Joy.
Well, thank you both. We have 4 great candidates in this primary. Mr. Montravius King, who will still be on the ballot, although he has suspended his campaign. Councilwoman Tijuana Brown, who is currently at a city council meeting, and Mr. Warren Turner and Ms. Joy Mayo, who have come down to join us. Early voting has already begun. You can vote at the Hal Marshall Center, 618 North College Street on September 2nd. The locations will expand. So please do not wait to Election Day. Go down to the Steele Creek Masonic Lodge on Steele Creek Road. Go down to West Boulevard Library. Skip the line. Have your voice heard. And in a low turnout election like this, you may well be the decisive vote. So thank you all for joining tonight, and thank you for your time.